Hello out there in the void, or hello void, since I am once again most likely just talking to myself. But it's another night in the 31 Nights of Halloween, and looks like the spirits are not interfering with the broadcast tonight. It's just the usual uh, graininess due to the lighting, which I'm still working on getting decent, or better at least. Who knows if it'll actually be decent lighting. But today was a day of cars. In the real world, I took my car in for an oil change and to get the tire fixed. Ran over a nail. I seem to do that about once a month. Well, not quite once a month, but oil change and get the tire patched. Turns out that there was also something going wrong with the one of the struts, and ended up costing me $1,200. So yes, real life nightmare, real life Halloween nightmare. $1,200 gone. Someday the car will not be worth putting the money into, but for now, yeah, $1,200. Also, cars over at Terror Titans. I put a link down below to the short film that's at Terror Titans today, and it is a little film about a Lyft driver who picks up a unusual passenger. Maybe it'll spoil if we mention this, but it echoes a very familiar urban legend about picking up the ghostly hitchhiker that's trying to get to the cemetery, or is trying to get revenge, or what have you. So yes, this guy's Lyft ends about as well as you would think it would in a horror film. But it did get me thinking, though. I've only encountered horror movies, short films that involve Lyft drivers and Uber drivers picking up ghosts or vampires, some other kinds of creatures. Have they turned that legend around yet? Has anybody made a film where the driver is the monster or the killer? I know there's one where I think it was a Korean or Japanese film. I forget the title of the thing right now, but where the driver picks up a woman that wants to commit suicide. If I remember correctly, she wants to commit suicide. He talks to her about it as they're driving, and then when she ultimately decides not to commit suicide, he kills her. I can't remember the exact reasons why, or even the title of the film, but that's the only one I can think of where the driver is turns out to be kind of a monstrous kind of person. I'd be curious if anyone knows of a film where it's not the standard sort of urban legend with one of the cats are crying out there. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it could even be a Tales of Crypt, where the driver is the sort of crypt keeper guy. And actually, as I was thinking about this, I even thought about maybe there's a serial killer that goes from town to town, and I even drew a parallel between goes from town to serial killer who's a Lyft driver and an Uber driver, picks up fares and kills him, or picks up fares, figures out where they it's very distracting, me waving over my shoulder on the other screen. Picks up fares, figures out where they live, maybe figure out who else is there, and then later goes back and kills them. Crisscrosses the country in his car. And so that's kind of where also that plus the Lyft driver who's taking you to your home, knows your address, can perhaps even figure out whether someone else is in there in the house with you as you're going in. I actually only recently did my first ride in one of these rideshare things because I was warned it would take hours for a cab to show up. I've just recently got, as I mentioned, maybe finally joined the 21st century. I now have a smartphone. I suppose my trusty old flip phone. So I tried the Uber. It was fabulous. And actually, in my case, the driver actually doesn't really know where I live because you can't get to my place easily. You got to drop me off and I have to walk the last little bit. But when we were kids, at least when I was a kid, it was always never get in the cars, never get into cars with strangers. And then later on, it was hitchhikers could be dangerous. You have to be careful of picking them up. Now we're hopping into cars of total strangers without a second thought. And if we're doing these lift shares and ride share things, we're letting total strangers hop into our car without a second thought. So it's interesting that things have come completely around. And actually, Stan, I just gave me another thought. There was that early Fox network show that was called The Hitchhiker or The Hitcher. And that was sort of a Tales from the Crypt kind of thing, where he told a story. It was frame. I don't remember it. It was on HBO. Oh, okay. All right. Must have been. Maybe I just knew about it and didn't actually see it because I don't recall actually ever feeling like I wanted to spend money on HBO. Well, a couple of years ago, but not way back then. So yeah, anyhow, that whole talk kicked off because of the film titled Dead Lift over at Terror Titans today, and that's also the thumbnail. The thumbnail for today's little post is also from Deadlift. It's worth checking out. It's a good film. Yeah, actually, beyond that, I didn't really have a whole lot to talk about today. So I think this will be wrapped up much earlier than the other ones. So I won't be, beating a dead horse and boring people too much out there. And yes, a hitcher was the framing device. Someone would drive by and not pick him up, and he'd do a Rod Serling-esque intro and wrap up at the end. And you stick out his thumb. Okay. So did the in the hitcher did the people that not pick him up, were they the subject of the story, or was that just some incidental thing? He just happened to be by the side of the road and started talking. Because that actually would make a great use of that framing device. If it's, you don't pick up the hitchhiker, you pay the ultimate price. Although speaking of hitchhikers, there was it Rutger Hauer? The hitchhiker? I think that was Rutger Hauer. That was a psychotic hitchhiker. Yeah, okay. All right, I may have to. That sounds like maybe I'll have to see if I can track down a couple of episodes and take a look at maybe on Amazon Prime, if that's there. Because I certainly would never try to go out and look at something that's pirated and shouldn't be on the web, because people never do that. Yeah, okay. So that was in my mind. I had that as two different films. There was some sort of hitchhiker film with Rutger Hauer, and then there was another film with C. Thomas Howell. But I guess they're one and the same. I do remember liking that, and it's one of the ones I've reviewed. Rutger Hauer. Yeah. The show and the movie were out about the same time. Yep, that is correct. But yeah, I think I have a review of The Hitchhiker over on Terror Titans. So if people are curious about that film, or at least my opinion of that film, it's over on the blog. Probably sorted either by Rutger Hauer's name or Thomas Howell. I think they're both in the sidebar topic list. But yeah. I think there probably needs to be some film or something about a psycho killer Uber driver. Because I think the time has come. Horror does keep up with technological and social evolution. Just look at, well, yeah. I will break my thought and read the side. No, I guess I'm only on YouTube, so everybody can see the side chats. I don't even have to read them. But Stan says that the Hitcher series was like all the other early HBO shows, pretty good, but they always had one topless scene just for the gratuity of it all. Well, yes, you are on cable, you could show the breasts, so why not go for it? And that does not seem like a reason not to check it out, though. Yeah, I'm a dirty old man. What can I say? Anyhow, the horror keeps up with culture and social evolution and technological evolution. So you see cell phones in horror films. In fact, they've cut the phone line, or the phones are dead, became a little problematic when cell phones came along. So it adapted, and especially when you're watching the short films that I feature on Terror Titans on YouTube a few years ago. Films are based around texting, films based around sending video on your cell phone, all that sort of thing was, I think they're easy to make for the filmmakers, because they were probably, in some cases, were actually using cell phones to record their films on. But yeah, horror has always moved with the technology and moved with whatever is currently the thing in society. So there's got to be some Lyft / Uber psycho killer drivers out there somewhere. So that's something I have to go looking for. And if, yeah. And then, as Stan says, any film with a party line as a hook is pretty much incomprehensible to a modern audience. Yeah, because those were even going away when I was a kid. I vaguely recall some talk about something like that when I was very, very young. But that could just be a conversation that never really happened. Because it would have to have been in the early 70s, and even out in the barely existing speck of a town that Lake Havasu was at that time, I don't think there would have been party phone lines. So, but yeah, party lines, who knows? Operators, I mean, they're still operators. Occasionally talk to some, but certainly the bit with the operators catching calls by the manual switchboards that they had back then. Yeah, those are also, what? Huh? So, but yeah, I guess that's another reason why horror has to keep up with technology, because things just stop being horrific because, looking it up, there does seem to be a few Uber-based horror films recently. Okay. Yeah, I just should do some research every now and then. But it also was just off the top of my head. Ride. Okay. And that's crazy drivers, not crazy riders or undead riders. Ride or Die. Well, those are sequels. Yep. I would hope so. Someone's in trouble. Or it's, oh my gosh. Who are those people that do the knockoffs? They did a knockoff of Omega Man. Got themselves threatened by the Tolkien people when they did their Hobbit Hobbit knockoff, Hobbit crossed with Cave Girls, starring midgets knockoff. Oh my gosh, The Asylum, that production studio, The Asylum. There you go. If Stalker is an Uber driver, then yeah, maybe my idea of them driving to your house and knowing where you live and who might be inside. Yeah, looks like they have done what I just haven't come across any of them yet because I am so far behind on my viewing. Spend too much time watching YouTube videos and films made more than 100 years ago. And I have a stack of DVDs, a big stack of DVDs that I just need to get through, including ones that people have sent me. And I probably won't be getting to any of these stuff in the next couple of days because I should mention this tonight before we head out. Werewolf by Night. There's a Werewolf by Night movie adaptation that'll be on Disney Plus on the 7th. And I will be bringing up Werewolf by Night again tomorrow probably because I do not have the Marvel phone book collections of Werewolf by Night handy. Thought about it earlier and I didn't grab them off the shelf that's out in the living room. Which, by the way, bookshelf that really impressed a maintenance guy when he came by here the other day. He didn't realize there were quite that many of the essential Marvel books, or that anybody would have an entire floor to ceiling bookshelf full of them. I guess I should take him into the office where he could have seen there was even more. Yep, Werewolf by Night was a great series, and when I was a kid, it was one of my favorite comics. And again, my reading of it was very spotty back then. Later, I filled in the gaps, and then when Marvel a few years back did the essential collections, and they had the 2-volume Werewolf by Night, I of course had to get them. I vaguely recall there being either one shot or mini series in the 90s. I think I was a little less. Don't think I was as thrilled with that as I was with the original stuff. I can't quite recall why. Oh, and when actually Jack Russell, a pun that was completely lost on me as a kid, that the werewolf's name is Jack Russell, which later I thought, okay, I can't believe that got through the editors, because I when I was editing, I would more often than not mix the joke names, but I think maybe, if memory serves, wasn't the editor also the writer of the early issues of that series? But yeah, that I love that series and enjoyed, I think, all the characters. And as I was saying before, Jack Russell popped in my mind. I did like the characters' appearances when he ended up with a group called the Night Shift, which was was a collection of minor villains and pseudo villains that have been in, I think, Spider-Woman, Marvel titles. If I recall, it was being led by a sort of a Batman knockoff whose name I completely forget. He was in sort of a complete black costume. Wasn't Nightwing, because he was the guy that was in the Defenders, but way off topic here. But although the topic of Marvel horror comics is also one that I really like, because a lot of the Marvel horror titles I very much enjoyed, and reading some of them now, they still hold up. Gabriel Devil Slayer, Devil Hunter, those are still pretty darn good. They are also collected in one of those phone book editions. The Living Mummy, also holds up fairly well. Yeah, I'll have to pull those off the shelf one of these nights and flip through them and reminisce about Marvel horror. The Shroud, yes, The Shroud. That's exactly who it was. But yeah, I did like Jack Russell when he was in with those guys. I recall being somewhat disappointed in his 90s appearances or late 80s, whenever exactly it was. Pretty much it was around that time where I stopped following Marvel, except for the Marvel Universe 2 titles. So they may have been a little later. Those were the ones with Spider Girl, May Parker. They basically, if Marvel Universe had advanced along history in real time, the characters would all be in there. The original characters would be in their 40s and 50s, and their kids would be the superheroes. And that's basically what had the premise of those Marvel Universe 2 titles. Spider-Girl is one that lasted the longest. It ran, I think, 100 issues and an additional 20. A bunch of other issues titled Amazing Spider-Girl. I got all of those. Loved that series to death from beginning to end. And yes, Spider-Girl was an excellent book. It was the actual last regular Marvel title that I followed. And every time I try to look at Marvel's now, I just guess I'm just old and things have moved on because they just don't look appealing to me. Even when I grab the collected versions, which they seem to be paced for more than anything. Actually, I think the real issue is pacing. I think a lot of comics, because I have written and edited such a vast amount of comics, I'm an expert in talking about this. That's sarcasm, yeah. I think that they're just not pacing the comics right. That's part of the issue. And this goes both for the artists and the writers. They're not the flow of the pages just isn't there the way it used to be. And it used to be, it goes all the way back to the 40s and 50s, which I can actually talk a bit more about than I can the modern comics, because I spent a whole lot of time rummaging through public domain comics for the Nulo Games comics / RPG versions. So yeah, but this whole side ramble got started on me trying to get around to saying that I'm really hoping that the Werewolf by Night movie is good, because the original, was it 75 issues, 60 some issues? I forget how many it was. My favorite comics. I mean, Werewolf by Night, I'm sure there were clunkers in there. I seem to recall when the second time around, either Taboo or Taboo's daughter came and went. I think I found that arc a little disappointing, but in general, I just have great memories about that series. Even when I got the phone book collections and I read those, I went, yes, this is as good as I remember. Oh, yeah. And that really goes for the couple issues that Tom Sutton illustrated. Tom Sutton is an artist that does not get the credit that he needs. 43 issues. Okay. Well, it should have been 75, damn it. Yeah, the Marvel titles, I'll get back to the real reason for this rant at some point, but the Marvel titles I really, really enjoyed seem to have been the ones that were the bombs, the ones that were part of the 70s horror boom, or superheroes but not really superheroes kind of trend. Spider-Woman. Again, as a kid, I only had a few issues, but I loved every one of them. And when they came out in the collected editions, I had to get them and read them and enjoyed most of them. And toward the end, it got a little eh. And the end of Spider-Woman made me kind of unhappy, but yeah. So yeah, Spider-Woman I enjoyed. Werewolf by Night, Tomb of Dracula. That was a series that even as a kid but that's the sort of second half of the run. I had most of those. Had a few of the black and white horror issues, horror magazines. That's as a kid I was aware of Gabriel, Devil Hunter, or Devil Slayer, Living Mummy, the Golem. Was it the Golem? I think it was the Golem. There was a Colossus and a Golem. I think they were both of those. Enjoyed a lot of those. Zombie, Simon Garth. I forget the series title, but it was one of the Steve Gerber creations. Steve Gerber loved almost everything that man wrote. The only thing that I felt was kind of It, the Living Colossus. That was what I was trying to think. I had and still have in a box somewhere, every appearance of the Golem and It, the Living Colossus. That's one of my few claims to fame, I guess. I have all 3 issues of 2 series that featuring characters that nobody cared about. Although the Golem at least got a wrap up in. Oh no, they both got wrap ups in Marvel Team Up. They both ended the storylines there with. I remember the Golem very clearly because it made me feel like there would be more stories. But yeah, I think they both had wrap ups in Marvel Team Up. Marvel Team Up, that was one with the Thing. No, Marvel Team Up was Marvel 2-in-1. Marvel 2-in-1 was the one with the Thing. They both wrapped up in Marvel 2-in-1 after they lasted their run in whatever the anthology title or tryout title they appeared in. Brother Voodoo, I had the 3 issues or 4 issues, whatever it was that he appeared in. Tracked them down after he was in Tomb of Dracula, saying, "Wow, this is a weird character. I got to find those." And they just happened to be in a box in a store around the corner from a place we were living in London. The American versions of them. How they got there, who the heck knows? But they were there. Yep. That's pretty much it. And Marvel Team Up, Marvel 21 were canceled titles went to have their storylines wrapped up. They did it with Deathlock. There was another good title. Man, maybe I should just come on here and blather about comics some night. But I do need to start thinking about wrapping this one up. But final thought about Werewolf by Night. Yeah, and actually Deathlock. All right, fine, I'm not going to wrap it up now, but because Stan keeps reminding me about great comics. Deathlock, I liked the original Rich Buckler. Rich Buckler drew the originals. Did he write some of them too? I don't remember. But for some reason in my mind, I'm thinking Rich Buckler as Deathlock's creator, but that could be wrong. I know he was Demon Hunter's creator because he started Demon Hunter, might as well have been Demon Hunter when he on a one-shot over at Atlas. Yep. Yeah, Marvel Team Up. I never really followed Marvel Team Up that much because Spider-Man was nice, but I was a Fantastic Four kind of guy, so I liked Marvel 2-in-1, especially the early issues, because again, everything Steve Gerber wrote, almost everything Steve Gerber wrote is a lot of fun. it's a bit purple when I read it through modern eyes, but all the Marvel comics from the 60s and the 70s can be, and into the 80s can kind of sort of be looked at that way. Okay, so Doug Mensch did the Doug Monk. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but okay. So even the revived Deathlock, I enjoyed that series. I think I got the miniseries, and there was an ongoing one which I got maybe the first 5 or 6 issues of. The first storyline, and when that first storyline wrapped up, I went, okay, because I do this with a lot of comics. Back when I was getting comics a lot and I was reading them, I would follow a comic series and I would read it until a storyline that I was interested in reading, until that storyline ended. And I would go, wow, that was a good story. And now that story is over, and I didn't really feel the need to continue with the title or the characters, because it was the same kind of feeling that I have when I watch a good movie. A movie that has a good ending. It doesn't need a sequel. I don't need to know what's coming next for these guys, because that was just the end, and it was perfect. And whatever comes next may ruin that. So yeah, I'm done. I'm going to move on to something else. There's only so many things to read and to view and to otherwise watch. So yes, a lot of comics. Even with the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four, the last little bit of me buying Fantastic Four, I don't know, there's just something about the way it was unfolding that maybe I'd outgrown comics. Although I really look at it, I didn't leave comics. Comics left me when it comes right down to it. But Fantastic Four, the very last issue I got, aside from a couple of miniseries, I think that came later. Fantastic Four versus Mephisto, and there was one other. Maybe it was the X-Men. I don't remember. But they're again in a box somewhere. Fantastic Four 300 issue 301. I'm pretty sure it was. The cover has Franklin being kidnapped by the Wizard as Ben Grimm is unconscious in a cab. I think it might have been illustrated by John Buscema. So it was a great issue to end my Fantastic Four life on, which was spotty during the 70s, late 70s, spotty during the 80s. About halfway through the Byrne run, I think, is when I have every single issue up until 301, and then again, I don't quite know what it was, whether it's Jerry Ordway's art or whether it's the way something was written. I don't know. I did find the Nazi travel time storyline interesting. Nick Fury is another favorite character of mine. Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. in the sort of super spy agency mode. Love those Jim Steranko illustrated stories from Strange Tales from the 60s. Have those collections on shelves too. But Werewolf by Night, the movie debuting on Disney Plus on the 7th. One of the trailers was in black and white, and it was made to echo the Universal horror films from the 30s and 40s. And if you pop by the Shades of Grey blog, you will find that I've watched and reviewed the vast majority of what they put out during that whole period. Even some into the 50s. I haven't gotten to the Creature from the Black Lagoon films yet. I have the complete Creature collection. I watched the first one and then ran into the period where, if you again look at the blog, you'll see there's like 3 years or 2 years in there where there's only a dozen posts at Shades of Grey, and then it goes back up to a couple of hundred a year. Creature from the Black Lagoon, for whatever reason, I just didn't like that first film as much as I liked all the other debuts of the Universal Monster Club. So I have not gotten back to watching the sequels yet. I really need to get around to that. Same thing with The Fly. I don't know if that was Universal or not. But once again, I'm just getting way off talking and babbling because Werewolf by Night. Black and white trailer. Loved it. I think I'll have to link down below to the trailer as well. I put it on Shades of Grey, I think. Maybe I didn't. I think I just maybe I just put it on Facebook. But saw that, said, "Oh my God, I hope this. Maybe if I eat more candy corn, I can focus, or maybe that's the problem. Too much candy corn. Because I know it's not too much coffee. I only had like 2 cups of coffee today. Oh wait, now I'm off on a different topic. Werewolf by Night trailer. Great trailer, black and white. Put me in mind of the old horror films. Made me hope that the movie is going to be a black and white film as well. I doubt it. I don't think that they would do a Marvel movie in black and white. But for me, it would be cool. I like black and white movies, as the hundreds of reviews on one of my blog shows. But even in color, I'll be watching this movie, and we'll be reviewing it on either Shades of Grey or Terror Titans. Well, hell, since it's on Disney Plus, I can run it on this screen, and I can sit sideways and maybe do live play-by-play, and then it can be watched later on. I don't know. We'll see. But yes, and it wouldn't be until in the evening anyway, because I wouldn't have time to watch it until pretty late. Oh no, it is on. When is the 7th? Is that Friday? Yeah, that's Friday. Oh well, yeah, it's going to be in the evening for I'll be able to get to it. But yes, I'm hoping you're right, Stan, because I think the film would well benefit from it. Maybe, I don't know. Well, I'm looking forward to it. It'll make the 31 Nights of Halloween that much better, especially if it's a good film. If it's an average film, I will probably still enjoy the heck out of it. It all depends. I mean, I've already, in a minor way, with Stan talked about, and a couple of people, how I have yet to see the Master of Kung Fu movie. I don't think that's what it was called, but the Shang-Chi, the film with Shang-Chi. Something in the 7 Rings, I think it was the title of it, or the 10 Rings. Well, whatever. They adapted the comic Master of Kung Fu to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I loved. It's another favorite title of mine. Read it very kind of spotty in its early run, but by the time Mike Zeck and David Day were the illustrators on it. David Day? Yeah, David Day. By the time they were illustrating it, I was getting every issue and just loving it to death. I enjoyed the whole sort of James Bondian spy. Gene Day, thank you. David Day is the brother that is still alive and drawing. Yeah. And I should have known that for several different reasons. That was a real embarrassing brain fart right there. But anyhow, I liked the spy vibe to it. Like I said, the James Bondian spy vibe. Even the revival that they ran in Marvel Comics Presents, that weekly anthology series they're running for a while. I believe it was in the maybe it was in the middle cycle of it, or the launch cycle, where they also had Gerber writing Man Thing, a Man Thing serial. They had Mensch doing old school Master of Kung Fu. And yes, David Day did actually illustrate a one shot right around the same time, either right before or right after they did the series in Marvel Comics Presents. Also, I liked it, but I liked the low-tech spy aspect of it with some of the mysticism in the background. It had to be there because in that book, Shang-Chi was the son of Fu Manchu, and Fu Manchu has the immortality serum, and plots revolve around that every so often. But the movie from the previews looked like it was far more in the over the top sort of special effects, wire fu kind of martial arts film, not in the tone of James Bond and some of the Bruce Lee films. So it was just one that I just I just ignored it, because I've always had the position that if I think I'm not going to like a movie, I don't spend my time on it. There's too many things to watch to hate watch stuff, in my opinion. Even when I was doing this sort of thing professionally, I would foist off things I thought I wouldn't like to other reviewers. And I just cannot stand the critics and the reviewers who, every time they review a science fiction movie or a fantasy film, they're gonna rag on it. They're gonna hate it. I don't know whether it's because these writers have no choice but to go to these things because their editor says you're reviewing this, it's a big movie, or if they're just jackasses that like to hate view and then dump on films they don't like. They go in expecting not to like it, and they write about how much they don't like it. Never have liked doing those kinds of reviews, never have liked signing them, never have liked reading them. Yeah. So yeah, they superhero them up, just like I suspected from the previews. Someday I might get around to watching it, because I know Stan has told me it's good, it's fun, it's enjoyable. Others have told me that it's a good film, it's a fun film, so long as you just forget about the original comics. That in fact that's an exact quote from my Nulo partner Handal, that she said, it's a really fun movie if you forget about the comics. So, and she, like me, is kind of out of touch with modern comics. So for all either of us know, Shang-Chi is a superhero, and in the current iteration, whatever that may be. And he said, "Yep, yeah, that's what Link said, or Hundal said needed to be done as well. It needed to be. You just needed to completely ignore the original character and view this as something separate. You can do the whole multiverse thing, I guess. He's on Marvel World 616, whatever it is, and the movies are on World 666, 619." Oh, I was going to make a joke about the Transylvania, whatever, but I blanked on the number, so I won't. Yeah, actually, earlier tonight we were running the. Well, I was running. I'm actually playing in it, but there's a weekly Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. game that a friend of ours has. He runs. He actually runs in 2 different groups, and he's commented how interesting it is to see how 2 groups have the exact same storyline, exact same problem, and yet they're going in completely different directions as to how they're resolving it. Which the magic of role playing games. If you let the players just take initiative in the plot, you'll probably have it turn out differently every single time you have different players. But this, why did I get on that? Oh yeah. They, for whatever reason, one of the players tonight looked up the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. television show and discovered that, at least according to one web page, it takes place on Earth 1999999 or something to that effect. She rambled a whole bunch of nines. I don't know whether she was exaggerating or not. So yes, I'm assuming she's looking at some sort of semi-official page. She looked up Daisy Johnson, I think his character's name, Quake. Can't even remember why she was looking her up. But yeah, so getting off topic again. It's a homebrew Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Role-playing game campaign. We play it weekly on Wednesday nights using the D6 rule system. That's what West End Games did with their Star Wars and the original Ghostbusters game using that. It's a favorite of myself and some of the players and other DMs that I run with. Since I'm on a totally different topic now, yes, it's another one of those campaigns where I see that I am a decent player. I'm a decent GM. Kind of what you would probably describe as a bad player. I tend to get impatient. I tend to want to just, I see what I think are the bad guys, and I tend to want to go straight at them rather than be smart about it and be circumspect, which the other players are more prone to wanting to do more investigation and wanting to figure out what really is going on rather than just, oh, that's very clearly a bad guy. And we know they're doing X, Y, and Z. Let's go kick their asses. And have to remind me, no, we're spies. We got to be a little more subtle than that. And so far in this campaign, I've been right. Most of my assumptions as who the bad guys were. But when I've been wrong and I've made things blow up, yeah, I have been really wrong. So yeah, I'm one of those players that DMs hate to have at their tables because they tend to be a little disruptive. I try not to be, but because I recognize that, man, if I was me at my table and I'm running the game, I might consider me to be a pain in the ass. So this is now it's confession time here on YouTube. And what is this, the fifth topic? Well, I've been trying to talk about Werewolf by Night. I just keep spinning off into different sub chats, subcategories. But it is almost 1 o'clock. That actually means that there is there's another post that's gone live on Shades of Grey. I don't even remember what it is. The Shades of Grey blog, by the way, for anybody out there keeping score. Most of those posts have been scheduled 3 or 4 or even a year ago. And in fact, some of those are, I could die tomorrow. I hope I don't, but I could die tomorrow, and there will be scattered posts still appearing on the Shades of Grey blog until 2029. That one in 2029, that's just there because I was feeling ridiculous one day and didn't want to do too much editing on a graphic, and it just worked out. So that one will get revised. But in all seriousness, there are posts scheduled through 2024. Right now, I think it's like 140 some pre-scheduled posts. So most of October or all of October is pretty much booked or pre-scheduled. So that's why I'm not quite sure when what is showing up. So I'm going to take a quick look. And I see there's 3 people that have stuck with us, or at least 3 people that have kind of tuned in. Stan has been kind enough to talk. Thank you, Stan. I appreciate it. making me feel less lonely here in the dark. Yeah, through 2024, things will be appearing on Shades of Grey, even if I get hit by a bus tomorrow or abducted by aliens or something. Now it's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 posts, and wait, no, only 4 posts in 2024, but there's about a dozen in 2023, and then well, more than that actually. But yeah, so the blog will live on even after I'm gone. Yeah, I know. You're just trying to keep me from logging off. Yeah, because you are a very evil guy. Stan knows that if I have an audience, I will just keep going and going and going because, well, I love having an audience. Oh yes, yes, the film that's up on Shades of Grey for today. I'll can put a link down underneath since it's already up there, but it's called Steps, and it's a neat little haunted house movie. Pretty much all practical effects because it's a it's a low budget film. It's driven pretty much entirely by mood. I liked it a lot when I watched it. Gave it 8 out of 10 stars. So yeah, want to see a spooky little film? Go to Shades of Grey, check out Steps. And yes, Stan, I'm feeling the same way. So good night. Thank you for dropping by. I appreciate you taking me down comic book memory lane, and knowing that I need to do more of that down the road. So thank you. And on that note, I am going to also sign off. It's almost an hour long at this point, and appreciate everyone for coming by. Watch Werewolf by Night. It'll be good. Yes, please be good, Werewolf by Night. And now I'm gonna call it a night. Have a good one. Make sure you get your Halloween candy, because trick-or-treaters will show up if you don't. And so good night all, or good day. Hopefully have a good day when you find this later. Click the first button, click the send button, and we're out.